again dive into the playoffs and lose at home to the Seahawks in a tough competitive game. However, just wasn't meant to be. Wentz gets hurt, and we're going to dive into it right now. So, T?
Yep. I'm back.
Great end of the season for the Eagles.
Yeah.
As far as the regular season goes.
Yeah, you can call it that, sure.
They dive into the playoffs. They get Seattle, which we all...
They didn't dive into the playoffs.
No.
They limped, all right? They limped.
They finished
strong. Four in a row,
winning
buddy.
streak.
So they had some... Again, it was weaker opponents. I understand that. But they did get into the playoffs on a high note, winning the division.
Yeah, with how many injuries?
No, understandable. But hey, it's a new season once the playoffs start, and I think everybody in this room can agree that they had at least a little bit of hope that we could have beaten the Seahawks.
Hold up, we say that it's a new season when you get into the playoffs. But what is this, man? Look, we could just turn off the injuries now, and all of a sudden everything is all bright and merry. No.
Look.
Well, hey, listen.
Okay,
listen, T. All because we're not going to the Super Bowl doesn't mean we can't take some positives out of this past season.
T's been half glass empty all day. Look, I believed in Carson Wentz and his band of merry men. Greg Ward. I know you don't know who these people are. Boston Scott.
Those are the only two names I know.
Josh Perkins.
Yeah, who?
Our third tight end.
Yeah, who?
Hey, he has hands, man. You gotta believe in Josh Perkins.
Oh my gosh.
He's got hands.
Here we go.
Better hands than some other
Hey,
guys
T,
on
I
this
feel
team.
you, though. We did start with Jeffrey Jackson Aguilar, even though he didn't play as we hoped he did. Then we finished with Ward Burnett. Is that his name? And then Davis.
Man, that's ludicrous.
And I don't know where Arthega was.
Oh.
But
I still don't know where Arthega is.
that's what we were finished with. We had
Ridiculous.
what Chris said, Boston Scott.
Boston Scott.
What's surprising
I
is
believe in that man.
What's surprising is Boston Scott has been one of the little surprises that's come through the rankings of the practice squad, all because of Darren Sproles' injury and then eventually him going on to say that he's going to retire. Which honestly, y'all know how I feel about Darren Sproles. I said that from the beginning of the season that Darren Sproles should not have come back. The Eagles should not have brought Darren Sproles back. And now all of a sudden, I don't know if you guys were listening to the press conference, but apparently now Howie Roseman wants to infuse youth into the squad. And I'm just sitting here going, well, why the hell didn't you do it before? Like, did you really think it was a good idea to have, the fourth oldest team in the NFL? Like, are you kidding me right now?
Is that what it was?
Yes.
Is that a fact?
Yeah.
Definitely. I understand where you're coming from. And the good news is, with these injuries, it was a blessing in disguise. You can look at it because we got to see the talent of Boston Scott. Got to see Miles Sanders kind of get a 3-down back type of role once Jordan Howard got hurt. And look at this. In my opinion, I think if Jeffrey stay healthy, we probably don't make the playoffs. I think that because we got guys like Greg Ward that stepped up, came in there. Ertz has been doing his thing all season. Goddard's been doing his thing all season. And then Boston Scott, like we mentioned, getting an opportunity to play for the majority of the games down the stretch. I think with all those kind of guys who were hungry for it, they wanted to play well, they wanted to succeed, and the fact that all those guys got injured who weren't really playing up to their standards, I think that gave us a shot of energy and got us into the playoffs ultimately.
Almost definitely. That infusion of youth that came through, they were definitely hungry. You could easily see in the play, and the passion. Even though we was barely squeaking by games at times, man, they were still scrapping that to the end of the game.
That's their opportunity.
You know what else? This also showed us what Carson looks like playing a full season and also how he plays with what he's got.
Yes.
Imagine how he can play with better wide receivers like in the offseason and A.J. Green maybe, even though we talked about him going Hollywood. But just better players.
Now, mind you, Carson Wentz is the only quarterback in NFL history to throw for over 4,000 yards in a season and not have one receiver had more than 500 yards. Do y'all know?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
How crazy that is?
You want to hear something crazier?
Hit me with it.
I'm listening.
Carson Wentz in the red zone the last 3 seasons, 60 touchdowns and 1 interception.
I saw that stat.
Yep. Now, and everybody wants to talk about how Carson Wentz ain't this and Carson Wentz ain't that. Carson Wentz carried this team those last 4 games. Let's be honest here. He carried them by his doggone self. It was Carson Wentz and the kids out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
He had a beautiful game against the Cowboys. Perfect timing.
Yes.
He 31 for 40, 319 yards and a touchdown.
He couldn't have had a better game against the Cowboys. All around, that team, I didn't know what I was watching that Sunday, to be honest with you. As I was surrounded with my family watching that game, I didn't know what the heck I was watching. Like, we were all just sitting around the TV just waiting for the sky to fall. Like, seriously, we were waiting for a collapse. We just couldn't believe it. This is the Cowboys. The Cowboys that smoked us in Jerry's world.
Yep.
I said to you, and you made fun of me for it, that
I always
other
make
than
fun of
that one Jets game where the defense had most of the points that game, I feel like that was the Eagles' best game defensively all year. Which, hey, they held them to 3 field goals, man.
Yeah.
You hate
Whatever.
to say that because it's a
Whatever.
team against the Jets, and also Orlando Scandrick had a few good plays in that game, and you don't like giving him credit at all.
Man,
But
the more that guy opens his mouth, the more annoying.
and you know what else? He gets the playoff bonus too.
Yeah,
So
True.
it's just
Yeah, he does.
so I
It's
guess
part of
he
his
wins at
contract.
the end. So
All right, guys. First thing I want to do is highlight the quarterback. Right, Carson Wentz gets hurt early in the late in the first quarter. I should say, even though we didn't really get to touch the ball because the Seahawks had control of it for the majority of the first quarter. And then Josh McCown steps in, does his best. Obviously, injures his hamstring throughout the game and plays to the end.
He needs
with,
to learn how to
with
wrap
that
that thing
injury.
up.
So credit to him for sticking through everything. We didn't really have a third quarterback. I guess it would have been Greg Ward, who's a
Yeah.
receiver.
hey, I was all for seeing Greg Ward come in, and we were worried about Carson Wentz's lack of experience in the playoffs. But then you have a guy 40 years old back up, and was this his first? This was his first
Yep.
playoff game.
First ever playoff game.
First playoff game.
And so it's just who rallies and how everyone performs under pressure. That's really what matters.
Not only that, but he completely tore his hamstring.
Well, you got to figure he's thinking, this is my last
This is
game.
it.
I'm in the playoffs. Got to do what I
a
got to do.
pulled hamstring is painful enough.
He was running too. He was.
But to
he was running.
completely tear your hamstring off the bone and still run around and still make plays, man, Josh McCown is tough.
I don't think obviously he didn't expect to come into the game, but the fact that he did run a decent amount, we saw him diving for first downs on sideline or down the sidelines and things like that. So from that standpoint, it was surprising. But again, let's look at Carson Wentz here. Obviously, very disappointing for him to go down with that head injury. I think it was I'm not going to say a dirty hit from Clowney, but definitely late. Definitely should have gotten a fine for it, but did not. However,
I'm sick of this.
I tell you what, it's just watching the last 4 games this season. We're all excited heading into the playoffs, and then him getting hurt on basically a play that really didn't look terrible, but we all saw him get up slowly, right? And once you saw the instant replay of him getting hit in the back of the head in slow-mo, then you realize, oh, okay, this is a serious injury. And you know what? And my opinion, I should say, when he went down and McCown stepped in, I still felt like, okay, we can still win this game. Like, I don't know what it is about this team this year, but I felt like because of how hot they were going into the playoffs, I felt, you know what? Why not, man? Why can't McCown lead us? And he almost did. Just couldn't get in the end zone and held us to a couple field goals, and unfortunately wasn't enough. But again, Russell Wilson, give him credit. He's something else. Even last night in that Packers game, watching him play,
Oh, no doubt.
I mean, single-handedly carries that Seahawks team.
Oh, no doubt. You get no argument out of me, man. Russell Wilson is still Russell Wilson, but at the end of the day, I think Jadeveon Clowney is like undesirable number 1 in this city now.
He had another dirty play. I forget what player on the Packers it was, but he dragged him out on the sideline by the helmet.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean, Max. It didn't feel a lot different seeing McGowan in there. But from my perspective, at the game, we didn't even notice that Wentz was knocked out of the game until McGowan's name was called after he was in a couple plays. And I know it felt like we could still do it. But honestly, after the game, I know it's a playoff loss and it's really disappointing, but we noticed we didn't have the players that we could to really make a strong push towards the end. So I wasn't as disappointed as last year because we were so close, and that pass to Alshon was deflected, intercepted. That hurts. And like a play like I'm sure for the Chicago Bears fans will always live with the double doink. But this game we were impressed with how far they made it, and they made it into the playoffs and how they recovered. And I think next year we can go off that and be better.
Oh, yeah.
And I agree with that statement. I agree with everything that you just said. But now we get to the point where we got to talk about some of this dead weight that they got to cut.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Jason Peters?
We kind of discussed it throughout the season, what player shouldn't come back, what player better not come back. There's a couple players that probably played their last game in the midnight green uniform. And look, as much as I love him, man, Jason Peters, I'm sorry. He's got to.
I think
He doesn't even
can't.
want to retire either.
Exactly.
Don't
He's
bring him
talking
back.
about he doesn't. He's only going to play for the Philadelphia Eagles.
He's got to think
And-
realistically.
But my thing is this. Okay, now it's time for Andre Dillard to start. I'm sorry. Y'all know how much I love Jason Peters, but at the end of the day, I'm sick and tired of these false starts. I'm sick and tired of always being behind the chains because one of my supposedly best offensive linemen keeps putting me behind the chains. Like, that's a disadvantage for us on offense, and that can also be a rhythm breaker at the same time. I'm sorry. Jason Peters, please don't bring him back. Please put Andre Dillard up in there. Let's start getting him some reps. Start getting him some starter reps. No more Jason Peters.
Yeah.
You talking about that you want a youth infusion? It starts with that.
See, I agree with you 100%. Like, for example, if we go 5-yard run on first down, 2nd and 5, we get a holding call at 2nd and 15, just like that, kills the whole drive.
Right.
So and he had a couple of those that were eye-popping this season as
He
a
was
whole.
the most penalized player on the team
Oh
this
yeah,
season.
Definitely.
I actually have stats for that. He had 10 penalties for 60-yard loss.
Yep.
Like, dude, that's more than half of the field.
Almost every time an offensive penalty, you just look at number 71. You'd be like, what did he
Automatically.
do this time?
Yeah.
What's funny is now, like when I was watching the games live, I literally started just watching him on the offensive line. I'm like, all right, he better not jump. I swear to God, if he jumps, I swear I'm gonna throw something at the TV if he jumps. And sure enough, doggone it, he would jump. Like, seriously.
What's he here for?
As you
Thank
get
you.
older, you get a step slower, and you got to get that quick jump off the line of scrimmage. He ends up false starting a lot. Let me read you some of the names, though, however, that were on the offensive line here. Isaac Sayamalu started. Matt Pryor started because Brandon Brooks was hurt. Vaitai started because Lane Johnson was out. I mean, and then you have put McCown behind center. I mean, look at that offense that obviously
lowlifes.
only able to score 9 points, but it was a game till the very end.
It was a game, and I'm not going to deny that. I mean, like I said, they played with heart. I even got to give Vaitai credit. Vaitai played with heart.
Got to give Ertz credit for fighting through the
Oh
ribs.
man, oh my goodness,
I-
he
Big
should
rib
not have
injury.
been playing.
I have a question. Why didn't Jordan Howard play?
I don't know
Is it
why.
because he doesn't want to risk injury because he's moving on?
from
It's either
It's-
that or because he hasn't gotten any reps down this stretch and going into a play. I know the example that somebody would say to counter this would be Marshawn Lynch not having any reps, and he goes into 2 playoff games and plays well. But for Jordan Howard, I feel like he just didn't have any reps. And Miles Sanders, who some people in the stream are high on, I still have my questions. But again, he had big time numbers like down the stretch and into the playoffs as the 3-down back, and Boston Scott was a good complement to that.
It's so many things that I heard why Jordan Howard wasn't playing. Supposedly he was still hurt, but they were dressing, just in case, and just to make sure that they had enough running backs. They would still dress him, and I'm just like, well, what the heck? Like, seriously, I don't understand why they weren't playing him, especially considering how good he was playing in the beginning of the year.
Right.
Like, I don't understand that one little bit. Like, seriously, like. He's a powerful back. Every single time he touched that football, that was an automatic 5 to 7 yards.
Completely against getting rid of Jordan Howard, but he's expensive.
Not necessarily. With the fact that he didn't play the last 6 games,
I think a Howard and Sanders duo is perfect.
I agree.
The type of runners they are, they're different. All right, Howard is a tank,
Yes, I completely agree.
and he's athletic. He's not as much as a wide receiver running back as Sanders is.
The most successful teams, I think, are the ones that have two strong running backs. One, I think your first guy obviously has to be a top-tier talent, right? We look at the Packers, Aaron Jones. We look at Zeke. You look at Saquon.
And the Saints when they had Ingram and
Kamara, yeah, definitely. Not a lot of backfields have that kind of a combination. Those are 2 great backs. But to have somebody with the talent of Jordan Howard, and it sucks this year because we didn't get to see a full season of him. But if you can come back healthy next year and we can resign him and have Sanders kind of complement him in the backfield, I think that would be a great duo. And that's where the question with Boston Scott comes in. Where does he get his playing time from?
Agreed.
But again, it's never too bad to have too many good running backs on your team in general. So
No, absolutely not. Now going back to the list of players that shouldn't come back. Yeah, we've all discussed this. If Nelson Aguilar comes back, I kid you not. I kid you not. I'm drop kicking somebody. Like, seriously, what are you looking at?
he won't come back too.
He
won't
better
be back.
not. I kid you not. Now I don't know how in the world they're going to do it, but you got to move on from Alshon Jeffrey too.
100%. Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
that's
know
going to be
how
it's
you're
going to be a
gonna
little
do
bit more difficult with the salary situation.
And that's my thing. Like, you got to do it though. It's got to get done.
I agree with you. I think
you got to play around with that cap rooms. You got to find a sucker somewhere. He got to go. He's got to go.
Aguilar, Jeffrey has to go. Anybody else on that offense that you see? Well, Peters, I think he has to go.
And you know what? I'm not going to necessarily say get rid of, but you better start looking out for a backup for Jason Kelsey or somebody to replace him. He's 33 years old. He's getting long in the tooth, and I can almost guarantee you he played through some injuries again.
I feel like he's going to retire, honestly, in the next year or two. I think if you can get not now, this is my opinion, obviously, but if you can get somebody in the 5th round, maybe look for the under-the-radar center, Howie Roseman, wheeling and dealing maybe a little bit from that standpoint. Hopefully we can find a diamond in the rough.
Are we in the same boat saying we still need to draft a wide receiver high in the draft, 1st round?
I think you have to.
Here's the reason why it's debatable, because now we're going to get into the defense. You might need 2 new corners. Because
what's Deshaun's contract looking like?
I think he's got 1 more year.
He has 2 more years on it? Okay, so you have
years.
your deep threat hopefully coming back healthy.
And you got the practice squad guys that you did all right with towards the end.
I think Greg Ward plays.
Greg Ward got a.
I think he's more or less a slot receiver.
But I think you need a skillful wide receiver.
I think he takes over for Aguilar.
He does. So you still need 1 more outside wide receiver to complete that.
I agree. I don't know if you can.
Free agency.
Yeah.
I don't know, and there is that too. Yeah, definitely. But I don't know if you can draft a receiver in the 1st round based on the fact that how bad our defense needs help.
Yeah.
Avonte Maddox back there. You got to think Jenkins might not even be back. He wants a new contract. McLeod's getting up there in age. Cravion LeBlanc. Yeah. I mean, Jalen Mills is a free agent. We don't even know if he's going to be back. So there's so many question marks on the defensive side of the ball, especially in the secondary, that I think you have to use your 1st rounder on a cornerback, definitely.
You really don't have much of a choice because, once again, number 21, your 2019 Burnt Toast of the Year winner, he stunk out loud.
Darby will not be back.
I've never seen a football player get manhandled like that consistently on a weekly basis, time and time again. I've never seen that before. I don't care what position you play. I haven't even seen kickers and punters get manhandled like that. Like, Darby would just get tossed around like a rag doll, and on top of that, and then it seemed like he couldn't cover his mouth when he coughed. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of these corners.
I think that this could be arguably Howie Roseman's biggest offseason, just because the defense needs a whole makeover, right? We have guys like Fletcher Cox and Malik Jackson hopefully coming back healthy to anchor the D tackle spot. But then you have an aging Brandon Graham. You have underperforming Derek Barnett to this point from the edge. So you might need an edge rusher to get to the cornerback. And again, either draft or free agency. That would probably be, oh man, it's really expensive in free agency to get a pass rusher. So I don't know. So
they pay them like quarterbacks now. Man.
A lot of question marks there. But again, we probably need a pass rusher. Bradham at middle linebacker, I thought he played okay this year. He didn't do anything that really wowed me, or was where I saw him and I was like, okay, that was a horrible play. Like, why is he out there? But then you have guys like Nate Gary, as the outside linebacker.
He played injured the whole season because he saw an opportunity to play on defense. He had the same injury as Deshaun.
And still played through it.
Yep. And then you have the whole mix of cornerbacks: Jalen Mills, Avonte Maddox, LeBlanc, Rasul Douglas back there. I mean, that is a mess. And hopefully, if we can restructure Jenkins, because again, he is a little bit older, but he's been a staple in this defense. I think you have to bring him back.
See, I'm different. I differ. I beg to differ.
Why is that?
Because, look, and I'm not taking anything away from Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins literally played every single stinking snap for the past 2-3 years. I'm not doubting his toughness, and I'm not doubting the impact that he has on his team. But at the same time, he is 33 years old, and he did look slower out there this past season.
And he's going to want a lot more money, too.
And he's going to want – he wants to get paid like a top 5
I think for me, it all comes down to what is he asking for.
Right. It depends on what he's asking for, because if he's asking for too much, and I'm sorry, you might have to move on from him. And that goes for Rodney McLeod, too. Everybody keeps praising Rodney McLeod. I don't see the same thing everybody else is seeing from Rodney. Rodney will flash every once in a while. But then then there's a lot of plays where he's taking a bad angle for a tackle. Yeah. He's out of position on coverages. Like
100%. I think because of how bad the defense is altogether, that when you look at names up and down the list, it's like, okay, the defense sucks. So you're automatically thinking like, okay, he couldn't have been that good. Unless you're really like watching the tape and eyeballing each individual player. If you're just looking at the eye test and you're like, okay, McLeod, toss up. You don't really either you don't know much about him, or you haven't seen him make any big time plays, which again he hasn't that I've seen.
Right.
But again, nothing to really question. Like, okay, we need to get rid of him. Definitely. He's not from, in my opinion, he's not like Maddox, who I think he might be back next year, but he has to go, in my opinion. Jalen Mills, the same thing. He's a free agent. I think.
Well, Maddox still has 2 years left.
I know, and he will be. He's going to come back. But
my problem with
you can't
Maddox,
start him, in my opinion.
My problem with Maddox is he regressed,
and I think he's undersized at his position.
But see, that's the thing. You can put him in the slot, or even better, you can put him at the free safety position. When Rodney McLeod went down the year before with I think it was a torn ACL, he performed pretty well at the free safety spot.
That's one of his strengths. He can play all over.
He can. And then I don't understand how this past season he regresses. He looks out of position. He looks nervous. Feet placement was horrible.
I think that Devontae Adams game really just killed his confidence because he got torched the whole game by Adams. In Green Bay.
It was like open season. That game. That's horrible. Right. But see, and then it leads me to another thing. I'm so glad that Corey Underlin, the Philadelphia Eagles' former defensive backs coach, is now the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Good. Get out. Because, no, seriously. Because, think about this. What in the world, what players has he developed since Doug Peterson became a head coach here?
I agree. The defense has been a mess.
We've had Russell Douglas. We've had Avonte Maddox. We've had Sidney Jones. Those are 3 players that really are supposed to be slated starters. Heck, Jalen Mills, who was drafted here the same year that Doug Peterson came in. Same stinking year. Where is the development? Why is he still biting on double moves? Why does he still look slow? Why is he still out of position? I'm sick of this. So I'm glad he's going. Maybe the defensive backs might start playing better. You know what? Straight up, Corey Underlin,
get the out.
Seriously.
See, I agree, and that's going to bring me up to this next topic here, the coaching and the front office. I think Doug, this season, he was put under fire a lot, starting with the Cowboys game where he guaranteed a win down there in Dallas, and they got smoked. And Jim Schwartz, who, listen, with the talent he has, I think he's a good coach, a good defensive coach. I know you're not a big fan of him because you're a big defensive guy and the defense hasn't been performing. But if you give Jim Schwartz talent and guys who fit into his scheme well, I think that he can be productive.
And I'm not doubting that. And you know what? I will give credit to where credit is due. No, I'm not the biggest Jim Schwartz fan, but I do feel like he really did work well with what he had. But at the same time, I understand he has a specific scheme that he likes to run. But the best coaches are able to change because of their personnel. The best coaches. Regardless, you're not always going to have the perfect pieces that you want to run the scheme that you want to run. So you got to make some changes.
Got to make changes to your scheme, right? You got to make changes to your scheme.
I didn't see I didn't see that many changes. All right, he was still running a whole lot of one safety high, still leaving these horrible corners on an island. Hence the reason why Devontae Adams goes off on Avonte Maddox, or Rasul Douglas continuously gets burned time and time again. Or how about the fact that these defensive backs, sometimes when they're giving up on these big plays, are looking at each other in confusion because they thought one guy was supposed to be in a specific spot. That's a problem.
That's also a good point.
And I don't think that's, necessarily on Schwartz. That might be the position coach. I'm not 100% sure. But those are things that you got to kind of take into consideration. But once again, I do give credit where credit is due. Jim Schwartz actually, he did do a pretty decent job this
Held
year.
the Seahawks to only 17 points again.
He did.
So
He's dealing with what he has.
Yes.
Exactly. And on the flip side of the ball, the offensive coordinator, Mike Rowe, finally gets fired. I kind of expected that because, listen, I know the weapons. I know the weapons weren't great for him, but I just don't think he was a good fit from the offensive coordinator standpoint.
He was horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Maybe John DeFilippo just got fired in Jacksonville. Could possibly bring him back.
See,
you never know.
But his track records as an offensive coordinator kind of concerns
Well, he got booted out of Minnesota, and then he just got fired from Jacksonville. I think the Jacksonville offense was like the 31st rated offense in total offense altogether last year, and he had guys like Leonard Fournette, D.D. Westbrook, and DJ Chark. He had weapons.
Right.
I know Foles got hurt early, but
and a good coach does well with what he has. Just like we were talking about Schwartz towards the end of the season, he picked it up, and that's what it goes down to.
Right, and I understand that he had to play with Minshew Gardner. I understand that, but.
Yeah, I know.
I understand, but
Gardner Minshew was a big time hype player for a couple weeks there. But again, at the end of the day, I know it's hard. At the end of the day, Gardner Minshew isn't a franchise quarterback.
No,
I
he's
mean,
not.
Foles
Will be back,
next
center.
year,
Yeah.
and different offensive coordinator in place. But again, listen, let's get back to this Eagles Seahawks game. I just want to point out a couple of things. One, DK Metcalf, great player, big time game for him. 7 catches, 160 yards, and a touchdown.
Howie, you messed up big time there
what
on
was
that one.
T, what was that thing about, like, the reason they
Yeah,
took
he's injury prone.
Whiteside?
DK was injury prone.
It was, yeah,
That's
he failed.
why.
He failed
the physical.
Yeah, he failed the physical apparently with the Eagles, and on top of that, I think they said he wasn't that good of a route runner, and they viewed Arcega-Whiteside as a more complete receiver.
Yeah.
Look,
Well, he showed us.
You know what? And I was just having a discussion with this. My uncle, he's a former high school head coach. I said there's 2 things that you can't teach, and that's size, speed. All right, DK Metcalf is 6'3", 220 pounds, and can run a 4.40. All right, and can clearly catch the stinking football. And he must have some kind of route running skills because he's constantly getting open.
With the salary cap situation and all the players, it's a different ball game than like the NBA or baseball, where you can just kind of cut a player loose. But with this group of guys that we have here, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, man, you can't have any confidence in this guy going into next season.
I have very little.
And here's the problem:
step up
we
big.
we have names with contracts, but we need multiple receivers, and we can't just bring in we can't just bring in other receivers, because what are we going to do with these guys? Can't just cut them. Like, are we really going to cut Arcega-Whiteside after one season?
No, you can't.
So you put yourself in a tough spot.
You gotta see how it
You
plays
gotta give
out.
him another chance.
You do. I mean, maybe
He'll be working hard this offseason.
I hope so, and maybe this is just a rookie year thing, and maybe he'll get himself together. Maybe he'll start playing like the receiver that we saw out of Stanford. But
He
as
never
for
had
this
speed at
past season,
Stanford.
Can
This
he
team
even
needs
play
speed.
worse? Can he even do worse?
He can't create
only up.
separation,
I mean,
and he doesn't have speed. And we didn't utilize his strengths this season, I don't think, with his jump ball ability in the end zone, near the goal line.
And you know what? That's another thing, man.
That's something I think Carson needs to improve on too. I think he needs to get more. I think he needs to get that ball out there more.
What you mean, deep?
Deep, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, who was he going to throw to deep after Deshaun goes? Deshaun was literally the only deep receiver that we had. And then once we went down, he tried to rely on Nelson Aguilar, who would sometimes short arm some of these attempted catches.
Wentz's pass or the yards per attempt were pretty low. He didn't. The offense was out there a lot, and
Does
it
a lot of
did move the
checkdowns.
ball. But we
Yeah.
were deep in our zone a lot of the time, and it was a lot of dink and dunk. It wasn't any big time plays down the field, other than week 1 where we saw D-Jax catch a couple of big time deep throws. So hopefully next season we don't have to have the offense on the field all the time. And, based on the fact that we were in our own territory a lot and having to move that football, but no one was able to create space. We didn't have any speed on the outside. It was really all Ertz and Goddard for those 12-yard passes.
And real quick, I want to go back to the draft since we're on offense. I think also something we need to worry about is the players that are going to be in our division next season.
Yes.
Like Chase Young on the Redskins.
Chase Young.
That's something we need to prepare for as well, because Chase Young is a monster in college.
He pisses me off.
And he should be a monster in the NFL too.
Really have to hope that Dillard can be productive in his first full-time season. Hopefully, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but hopefully Dillard comes in and is worth that first-round pick that we drafted him with.
He ain't got no choice because he's got a monster now to go up against. I can almost guarantee you the Giants. That's exactly who the Giants going to go after if nobody picks him up beforehand.
So many headaches for Howie Roseman this offseason with the receivers we need, the D-backs, and so many positions that we need to fill. And you can't do everything through the draft, and you can only sign so many free agents. And like how we mentioned earlier, some of the guys are on their contract still that aren't that talented, but we can't just let them go because maybe they're young. We're still trying to develop them. So it's going to be a tough offseason for the Eagles.
Everyone's got to do their job. Coaches got to train the players. Players got to show up and perform. And Howie's got to make this team what it is.
You know what?
Yeah.
In going back to the coaching thing, I just want to discuss with you guys my vote for offensive coordinator. This is just my line of thinking. I struggle with this, and then when I see DeFilippo become available, I was like, that's an interesting option. But I'm still gonna stick with my guy. I want Deuce Staley as offensive coordinator. I want Deuce. At first, I was a little iffy about promoting from the inside.
He might be in the lead right now.
But my thing is this: Doug Peterson is pass happy. All right, he's almost an exact replica copy of Andy Reid. How many times have we come in to this studio and we've complained time and time again about putting Carson Wentz in awkward situations or putting him behind the 8 ball because you refused to run the football, or the fact that Miles Sanders should have gotten more runs, or the fact that Jordan Howard should have gotten more runs. Deuce Staley, being a former running back, could be that one guy that, to tell the coach, hey, coach, let's run a stinking football. We just ran it for 8 yards. Don't pass it. Run it again. Let's keep running it till they prove they can stop it.
I think part of that has to do with the kind of QB that you have. Like for Mahomes, he can sling the ball 50 times a game, no problem. Same thing with Wentz, I think, especially because Wentz doesn't run as much after that injury. And for me, I wanted to ask you guys how confident you are Miles Sanders if Jordan Howard weren't to come back.
Oh, I'm very
Tell you what,
confident Miles Sanders.
my Sanders jersey's in the mail right now.
That's fun.
Very confident as a 3-down back.
Yeah, what did it for you? Was it that drop in the red zone? Was that what's throwing you off?
I think he had a great end of the season.
Let me tell
right?
you, 818 yards,
Man, that's
3
ludicrous.
rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns, and I think he is Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I think he's a little bit undersized, right? And I don't think now there is running backs undersized. I don't give you an example, but I don't think he has that talent as I say now, Kamara, right? He doesn't have that breakaway speed like Kamara. He doesn't have that. He can catch passes, but he doesn't have that elite pass catching ability like Kamara does. I'm still shaky on.
He's a rookie.
His size, and he does have speed, but he doesn't have that elite speed.
I like him. I like his attitude. I like the way he plays.
I like the way
I like him. Believe me, I want him on this team. I just don't know if I'm confident as saying, okay, here, Miles, take the ball 21 times per game.
And I think his ball carrier vision is only going to get better with time. I think that's the one
Time will
biggest,
tell. That's right.
That's the one biggest thing I had a problem with him throughout the entire season was the fact that I'd be like, yo, man, there's a hole right there, man. Then why didn't you hit that hole? Why are you following the blockers on this play?
That is why we need to keep a guy like Jordan Howard.
I agree.
Look at this. Look at these playoff teams, right? Dalvin Cook gets the ball 25 times a game, and he's like, you're confident in him. Okay, Dalvin, go take the ball for us.
Don't forget the king of rushing.
Aaron Jones, Zeke,
Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
Good
so guys
Lord.
like that, and this is where I'm coming from. Obviously, there's only one Derrick Henry in his whole world. I mean, the guy's a freak athlete. But you compare these guys around the league. You could compare Aaron Jones, compare Alvin Kamara, compare Dalvin Cook. You just keep comparing, and it's like, okay, put Miles Sanders. I know he's a rookie, and he can definitely develop into that. But I still think it would be nice to have Jordan Howard come back
Definitely.
just to compare with him, at least for another season before Sanders builds his confidence up a little bit more.
Most definitely. Then you always want to have somebody that's the opposite of your feature back style to kind of complement the running style. So and they're perfect complements for each other. So there's no doubt about it. I definitely want Jordan
I
Howard
was
back.
very
Definitely.
excited and surprised that we got Jordan Howard last season.
In that trade, definitely.
In that
Agreed.
trade, and when it happened, it was just very surprising. So let's talk about the other teams in the league, what happened in the playoffs and the wild card round, and what's going to happen in the future.
Tom Brady is done.
Yeah.
He's cooked.
You think he's done?
I think he's done. Dude,
He's playing again.
I've never
Next
seen
season we'll see him.
Tom Brady
Resign
can
him.
barely throw a 15-yard pass
That's
anymore.
fine. Resign him, New England.
Nah,
I think Tom Brady will come back, but
What's
I
he
don't
here
know
for?
how. I don't know how effective he'll be.
I think he'll be with the Patriots
Where are they
next
going?
season. I don't think he's going to play for any other team.
Exactly.
He's definitely coming
Hard
back.
to disagree with that.
Because where do you go? What's New England going to do? Put in Brian Hoyer?
You see, that's the problem. A few years ago, they get rid of Jimmy G because Tom Brady wants them to get rid of him. Bill Belichick was completely against it, but Kraft, Tom Brady is savior. He's got to listen to what he says, and now they're screwed.
But now exactly. You've handicapped your franchise because you wanted to listen to a doggone quarterback who has a shelf life.
Yeah.
Whereas this coach who's been coaching this team to 6 doggone
Exactly.
Super Bowls in this era, but yet and still you want to once again listen to a quarterback who's eventually going to retire, and you allow him to screw over your franchise, which now you need a quarterback because your current quarterback can't even doggone near throw a 10-yard pass
I
anymore.
know.
And the thing is, Jimmy G wouldn't have known how great he is. We wouldn't have known how great he was because Brady didn't get injured. He wouldn't have time to be on the field.
Didn't retire.
Yeah,
Nope.
they would be perfect right now if Brady would decide to retire and not play next season. They'd have Jimmy G, and they'd still be the same Patriots.
Go ahead, Chris.
Kind of off topic, but do you think New England tries to trade up and get a quarterback in this coming draft?
Ooh, there's a couple of good quarterbacks coming out, man.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Not my.
I think they stay put where they are. The
You
Niners.
don't think they try?
Belichick, I don't.
They give it another year?
I think they just give Brady another 1-year deal, and I think he's done.
I don't think they trade up. I think they just deal
I think
with
they stay
the picks
put.
that they
Whatever
have.
they get.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to get another quarterback. I think Brady will be there for one more season. Real quick before we transition into a new topic, let's get the picks for this upcoming weekend. AFC Championship game, Titans at Chiefs. Who you got?
Chiefs.
I'm on the Titans
Chiefs.
train. man.
Anyway,
Yeah.
can Derrick Henry carry this team to
You
another
know what?
Oh,
I just
man.
want
another
I just wanna
week,
say
another
this.
They
Super Bowl
beat
run?
the Patriots. I
Yeah.
mean, they win. They win this
On the
week.
road in New England, on the road in Baltimore.
Yo,
On the
were
road in Kansas City.
Whoever the heck it was, it might have been Joe Buck, but he was they were talking about how in the Baltimore game as well as the New England game, because of how long they possessed the ball, if you can keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, you're gonna win.
That's true.
You're gonna win if you can, because was it 8 or 9 offensive drives that I think it was Baltimore had in the first 3 quarters. It was like 8 or 9, and if they're getting the ball that little, because Derrick Henry
That guy
is the
doesn't know what the
one.
hell he's doing.
Derrick Henry is running that offense.
Yeah,
and
that's
Ryan Tannehill, and man, I'm sorry, that's such a cool story.
The playoffs.
Ryan
this
Tannehill has revived his
crazy
career.
playoffs this season.
How about we go NFC predictions here? Packers,
It's going to be the
Niners.
Chiefs and the Niners. It's the Super
Niners.
Bowl. I'm stamping it right now.
I agree with that. I think it's going to be Chiefs and Niners. I think the offense for Kansas City
Titans,
with
Niners.
Patty Mahomes is just going to be too much.
Hey,
I
I
don't
wouldn't
know, man.
mind seeing the Titans.
Titans.
See, I
Their
don't
last
know, y'all.
Super Bowl, they lost by a yard, right?
I don't know, y'all. That
That
Green
was-
Bay defense, man, they can play tough as nails, man.
Tennessee against Kansas City in the regular season was great. Tennessee did win at home, but this is going to be.
Talk about
Don't know
taking
what-
advantage of what you get, like Ryan Tannehill coming in and just slinging
Yeah,
it and
special.
doing what he can do.
I will say this about Tannehill: when he was in Miami, he wasn't a bad quarterback. They were just a bad team,
No.
right?
Yeah.
And he also had injuries on top of that. But I always thought he was a capable guy.
But it
You
also
know,
helps when you have a monster who ran for over 12,000 yards in his high school career running the stinking football. But I'm just saying.
That's a real thing, by the way.
understand.
So the
12,000
the
rushing
wild card was crazy. The Texans come back from 16-point deficit against the Bills, who the Bills came out on fire.
They did.
Oh, yeah.
Josh Allen was
Yeah.
looking great. First drive was amazing.
And then the next
And
week
it
they
all
blow
fell
the
apart.
24-point lead.
Yeah.
Houston. So,
Man, Houston fans.
Yeah, I was
Back
about
and
to
forth.
say, man, the Chiefs look dead in the water because, like you said, same thing with the Bills game. The Bills come out, they're hot, they're on fire, they're just attacking from all cylinders. Same thing that happened yesterday.
Is this the best comeback in history? We're not talking about the Patriots and Falcons.
Man,
Is that better?
Only because it's in the Super Bowl, but man, you gotta put that game up there. It's gotta be.
Just 41. Was that 41 unanswered?
41 unanswered points.
That's
It
crazy.
was
They ran out of
crazy.
fireworks.
It
Yes.
really was. It was 41. At one point, it was 41 to 24, and then Houston did score that touchdown. They got 31 points, but to drop 51 points after really being down 24-0 is
Yes.
just unheard of.
Yeah,
Not only that,
I
but
changed the channel.
They came back within the half.
I know.
They didn't use the entire game in the stinking half.
Did they
First
score
half
every
was-
drive in the quarter? In the
It was yeah.
They had to.
I think Mahomes
under
had
3
like
minutes.
3 touchdown passes in 3 minutes or something
it
with the
was-
block. They had a blocked punt, and
Yeah,
their special teams
the
was on fire.
punt return or the kick returner dropped or fumbled the football. So it was
Yeah.
absolutely crazy. And
Yeah.
next weekend with these NFC Championship, NFC Championship games are going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to the Packers Niners.
Don't forget about the team that I thought was going to win the Super Bowl this season. The Saints lose to the Vikings again. They just what
I thought
what
the
do they
Saints-
need?
I know.
What more do the Saints need?
the NFL to stop screwing them over.
They have so many weapons.
I don't. Yeah, that definitely that last play of the game where Kyle Rudolph did have an arm push off. It's ticky tacky. It's not blatant like it was last year with the Rams. But yeah, Tanner, I'm with you. I thought the Saints, and I still do think today
It's been their time for the past
know.
3 seasons.
on paper, I still think the Saints are either the best or the second best team in NFC over the
Easily.
Packers. I think, and it just sucks the Vikings.
How many more years does Drew Brees have?
Now that's a
He's
good
got
question.
a couple more
Yeah.
seasons.
I think he's going to come back and play.
Like 2?
Oh, yeah.
He's still at a
least
crazy
two.
level.
At least
Two.
two.
He's playing really well at a great level.
Yeah, he is. He's playing at a very high level. He's still got another 2-3 seasons left in him.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some Sixers here, guys, real quick. Let's start with Embiid's injury. Obviously, terrible. That was dirty, nasty, really nasty.
Disgusting.
Yeah, that was. Oh my god.
Finger was not in the right spot, to say the least. But
It didn't look great.
That is blasphemous.
with him out and Simmons having no improvement offensively. Harris and Horford, in my opinion, contracts for them that's showing up nowadays. You know, we were all skeptical in the beginning of the season, and now that we've had a bigger sample size of games, I just feel like those contracts that we signed them to were ridiculously overpriced.
Or do we start looking at the man who's coaching them?
Again,
Let's be honest here. Why is it that Ben Simmons still isn't shooting? Why is it that defense are
he
still disrespecting?
took the responsibility. Brett Brown said it was on him.
He
Okay.
did take the responsibility, but he
Guess
has
what?
to do something about it.
That-
He really has to.
Boom.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head right there. Yes, do something about it. That's one thing to take responsibility. The one thing Andy Reid used to piss me off with every single doggone press conference when we would lose. What was his main saying? I got to do a better job. Well, doggone it, do a better
Then
job
do
then.
it. Then stop
Yeah.
talking about it.
Stop talking about it and actually do it.
Is-
That's the part that's irritating me.
Is Ben 3 for 3? Did
Yeah.
he miss one yet?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think he's missed the three-point shots that he's taken.
Maybe he just doesn't think it's necessary.
But even still, they're even disrespecting him inside the three-point
I see him
line.
getting open.
Right.
It
Like,
messes up our entire offensive flow. I mean, listen, every possession, this is what we see. We see Simmons come down with the ball, passes it to the wing, and then he goes and stands under the basket. He looks for a
Yeah.
tip in, he looks for a lob pass. I mean, granted, his defense has been off the charts. His steals, his deflections, his defense as a whole has been
stupid.
great. But the fact that he, on offense, especially crucial moments of the game, we're talking the last like 2-3 minutes of the game, we're basically playing 5-on-4 out there because he's not going to shoot the basketball.
No.
Right? He's just not going to do it. I can look at multiple games, the Miami game, the Orlando game, a couple weeks back in Miami, in Orlando. The games like that, it was just crucial for him to be a playmaker. He's supposed to be a star on this team, and he just is not improving at all, and it's
Right.
very
I'm
frustrating.
getting tired of us looking like idiots saying, just wait until Ben gets that shot down. He'll be the greatest.
Now you sound like an
And-
idiot. I've been calling you an idiot since last summer. Every
It's-
single time you sent me a doggone video.
It's just,
was
it's not
looking
my
good
fault.
in
It's,
the,
he's looking great
In the summer,
in the summer, and then he's
off.
shooting that. He's making the threes, and then he come to the regular season. He's only shot it 3 times against
we really
teams that weren't that great.
we really don't
It's a
have great
problem.
shooting either. I mean, listen, Cork Moss came back. I know we were all sitting on the set here when I told you guys that why in the world did we bring back Cork Moss. I know he could shoot. That's about all he can do. And listen, when you can't play defense in this league, we saw what happened to J.J. Redick. I know Redick is a better shooter than Cork Moss and definitely a veteran, much older. But listen, you just can't win with guys like that if they're in your starting lineup. You know, Cork Moss off that guy doesn't know what the hell our he's bench doing. has just been horrible over the last couple of seasons. You got guys on this bench like Shake Milton, Raul Neto, Cork Moss, James Ennis, like just a bunch of Trey Burke, Jonah Bolden, like guys like we don't have one of those guys coming off the bench that are difference makers. You know, we rely so heavily on our starting lineup. And again, I'm going to point at Elton Brand here because we got Horford, who's a center. He's just a center. He's not a power forward. And we got Embiid, who's a center. The way he constructed this team. Tobias Harris, who's a nice player, but for 5 years, $180 million.
I think
Come on.
I think we all said that Tobias Harris got overpaid considering the type of player.
Josh
he is.
Richardson is the only guy with his contract and his position and his skill set that you plug in there and say, okay, solid starter, solid role
But
player.
still, he's not performing as to what he should be.
He's not
Not
supposed
consistent.
to be that super. He's not supposed to be a star.
Not
He's not-
every single game.
He's good defensively. He can shoot it a little bit. He can get to the foul line, drive, play solid defense.
And
Right?
I got
That's a good guy to have on your basketball
and
team.
he's injured most of the time.
He had a
playing
little injury earlier on in the season, but not to the point where it's injury prone yet.
Right.
And I got another issue. Why in the world do we play so well at home, but didn't we play like a pile of out on the road?
I know. I don't get it either. And listen, the other night we played Dallas on the road. No
Yeah.
Dallas
Porzingis.
is a good team.
They are good, but they had no
They're-
Porzingis. I know.
Right.
I
That
know.
was my big thing. No
Yeah.
Porzingis. So the main person you really have to worry about is Luka Doncic. So
And he didn't have his best game.
no.
You know, and we still weren't able to capitalize off of that. And I don't really know. I'm sitting here, you know, trying to enjoy the break, obviously, watching these games, relaxing,
Right.
and I'm looking at the screen. I'm like, if I'm the coach, if I'm the GM, I'm just a fan sitting there.
What-
But what do I do, or how do I get this team better?
What happened to this Christmas Day team?
That team looked
Ever since
dominant.
Christmas, just
I didn't
downhill.
Know, I didn't know what kind of team I was watching on Christmas
amazing.
Day.
It was a great.
They're making
They
every
started
shot.
to lose the lead at the end. I was thinking, this. Here comes the old Sixers again.
They're
But,
going to blow the lead, but they were able to hang on.
Max.
Yep.
Okay. Tell me if I'm crazy, but
You are.
I don't see the Sixers ever winning anything with Ben Simmons.
Why would you say that, Chris?
Listen,
I don't believe
Chris,
him.
I understand.
I don't
I
believe
think
him.
I don't agree with that because I think if you were to change the players that he has around him, right? You can have Simmons on your team, but the players that you have around him and their skill set matter, right?
I don't.
Yeah.
And having Embiid and Horford,
I don't believe in him.
you listen. If you're gonna have and this again, see, this goes back to coaching. If you have
Man,
the
that's
roster that you
ludicrous.
have and the starters that you have to use the twin towers that you have inside to your advantage, right? You can't play the traditional 4 out, 1 big in, right? Use that size to your advantage. Maybe try something outside the box during these regular season games against the Cavs, against the Magic, where games that regular season they probably don't matter that much. I mean, try it, and even if you don't play well or it's not successful, you're still playing a weaker opponent, right? Try 2 guys inside, try 3 out, 2 in, 3 out, right? Maybe that works out. Maybe you get more offensive rebounds, kick back out. At the trade deadline, something has to happen if we want to. I mean, listen,
This
literally
team's
right
starting to
now,
lose it.
look what we're
Starting to
doing.
lose
it. Yes.
We're like the 5-6 seed in the
Yeah.
East.
And then once again, if Ben Simmons still refuses to shoot, like you were suggesting, 3 out and 2 in, shoot, put all 5 of them outside the perimeter. 1-on-1
You got
with
to
Ben
do something
Simmons.
different. You have to.
Just try something different. I'm sick and tired of coaches throughout all sports just doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's insanity.
Maybe you have Simmons inside, everybody else out on the perimeter. I don't know,
Right.
but you got to make some
Ben
changes.
Simmons is a walking mismatch. So utilize his size.
The 3 guys of Horford, Embiid, and Simmons on the same team together are just it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Look at Horford the last couple games with Embiid out. He's been great. He's been back to his normal self inside, a post-up player.
ridiculous.
But when he's standing out on the perimeter shooting threes, that's not his role. I mean, listen, back when he
Right.
was good in his prime, back a few years ago, especially with the Atlanta Hawks, like we remember, he was a dominant post player, and he had Paul Millsap in Atlanta who complemented him well because he was a stretch 4, right? And I think now that he's kind of playing a different role, and these guys have come out and said it this year. Multiple guys. Simmons has come out. Tobias Harris has come out. They're all speaking their minds, but they're saying it to the media. Are they saying it to each other in the locker room? Or
Right.
are they having any conversations?
All right, that's what I'm saying.
What the hell is going on?
T, what you were saying about our performance away, we're 7-13 away,
It's an issue.
18-2 at home.
It's an issue.
You don't look at anyone on this bench. I mean, with the exception of Matisse Thybulle, like Mike Scott, he's been okay. Pell having to play more minutes now with Embiid hurt, but the guards on this team coming off the bench. I mean, Trey Burke, I guess you can call him a bright spot for what he's done and what you've expected out of him. But other than that, I tell you what, James Ennis, I guess you can say James Ennis has been decent. But I'm talking about a team like the Pacers a few years back when you had Malcolm Brogdon come off the bench as a 6th man. Like that dude is just going to come out and ball out, you know?
Right.
Not every team has that, and we just have to. I wish we were able to find somebody like that. Kyle O'Quinn, another guy that you haven't heard much of. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, he's not much is expected of him, but when you have 6 guys that you're playing a ton of minutes, it's hard every night in and night out when you can't have 10 guys playing or 9 guys playing.
Quinn needs to pick it up now that Embiid's out, but
Yeah.
I haven't been watching much basketball since the past weeks. It's been football for me. What about Mike Scott? How's he been performing?
Okay.
He's been okay, shooting 34% from 3. He's shooting 84% from the line, 41% overall. He's played 40 games this season. He's not been playing poorly, but he's not the difference maker you want off your bench, right? He's like one of those guys where let's just shoot the 3, right?
Good 7th, 8th rotational guy, but
Exactly.
we still lack that 6th man.
We still
need.
like that Lou Williams, that
Yes,
Lou Williams type. We lack that 6-man type of player.
And that'll help us get over the top because listen, right now we're 10th overall. The sky hasn't fallen. We're not done. We just need that one player that's really gonna put us over.
Brett Brown is going to need to pick things up the second half of the season and into the playoffs. Or
I'm
else he's
hearing
out.
Covington a lot. I'm hearing his name
Again,
a lot.
I don't
Well, he's
know.
not-
Another
he's-
name. I'm looking at this list of names here. If you plug in Covington,
That's not
it's
gonna do much.
It's another name. It's
Right,
just
he's-
like
something big needs to
you
happen.
got to make a trade. Is what you
Right.
got to do.
He's not that big scorer that you need to come off the bench. That energy guy. That guy that you know that's going to get
Right.
you 15
You
plus points every
sign
night.
for example, a couple years back when we got Bellinelli at the trade deadline, Ilyasova at the trade deadline. Those are the guys you go out and get when you're
Yes.
like making
Yeah.
a run. All right.
Just put
when
a
I'm looking
spark
at
in
this, if we go out and get the same type of players, we still have the same problem.
Right.
I mean, those guys are going to add in the same bench depth. But we need to make a trade. That's the only way I can see ourselves out of this.
Yes.
Got to shed some salary.
Right.
Horford's 33, going to be 34 years old. If I was hearing rumors maybe a CJ McCollum deal with Horford in a first rounder, send him out to Portland and get McCollum in here, and then you look at Horford on the screen and you're like, okay, or excuse me, you look at McCollum on the screen and you're like, okay, there's a difference maker. You know,
Yeah.
this all goes back on this sheet of paper. I wrote down one name. Guess what the name was? Jimmy Butler. This all goes back to Jimmy Butler.
God, here we go.
If we had Jimmy Butler and we didn't, piss him off to the point where he wanted to leave, and we just gave him the max. I know he's a little bit older. What is he? 29 in a 5-year contract. He's going to
Scrappy
be
player. He's exactly what Philly needs.
He's like fifth in the MVP
Still
race
mad
right
at
now.
him, though.
See, he's fifth in the MVP race. If you look at Jimmy Butler, put him on here instead of Al Horford.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a big time
It
difference.
was either
When you-
Jimmy
when you
Butler or
look-
Tobias though at the time.
When
So
you-
would
when
you
you look
rather?
at- yeah.
Listen, obviously you take Jimmy Butler, but okay, put Jimmy Butler in over Tobias Harris. And two things here would have shaped this whole season differently to this point. If we use the $107 million we spent on Horford with some other free agent, some other option, and instead of we picked Tobias, we picked Jimmy Butler. So we have whatever player you buy with instead of Al Horford, and you have Jimmy Butler over Harris. Look at that. Look at how much different. Maybe you re-sign JJ Redick, so we would have almost the same team, except you won't. Who was that fifth star? It was last year. It was Redick, Simmons, Tobias, Butler, and Embiid.
Yeah.
So you don't have Tobias. So we just have to find somebody else. But say you bring back Simmons, you bring back Redick, you obviously still have Embiid, and you get Butler in there. You just and instead of using the Horford money on Horford, use it on somebody else.
Right.
Look where you're at. You're in a much better spot. Maybe you spend less than $107 million on somebody else, and you can get a better bench piece, like a good six man. This all goes back to Elton Brand has to take some heat here too.
But you also still have a 6'10" point guard who refuses to shoot and take advantage of the space that defenses are giving him.
There's a problem.
It doesn't matter what player that you trade, what player that you put instead of this player, don't matter. You still have a 6'10" point guard that refuses to stretch
And
the
that
court.
that wasn't as big of a bright spot last season when you had Butler down the stretch. You can just give the ball to. It's like, okay,
Right.
we can send Simmons down there to get those offensive rebounds and tip-ins because you had Butler. He was taking the shots, but it literally this season has been frustrating. And obviously there needs to be changes made. We can't go back and redo what's already been done. You can't just go back and get Butler. But I hope that Elton Brand makes some changes, and maybe Brett Brown needs to go.
Yeah, he do.
Chris, I know you've been waiting on the Phils.
No, but no, I was going to bring up the fact that if you look at Tobias's contract side by side with Jimmy's, it's not that different. It's literally when you look at the year by year AAV.
Tobias and Butler, you mean?
Yeah.
But look at
What did I say?
look at this. No, you did. You said that.
Okay.
But look at the skill set of each player.
Oh yeah, no, that's exactly it. Literally, when you look at the AAV side by side, Butler's making literally $400,000 more.
Part of
which
the reason
is
could have
not
been
a lot of money.
Part of the reason could have been Butler. We don't know what happened behind closed doors, but part of the reason could be Butler just didn't want to be here.
Right.
Yeah, apparently he had a thing.
But when he got here, it was like, okay, here I am. Maybe I could re-sign, and we were all hoping he would, but
Right.
obviously he doesn't.
Before we end the show, let's talk about this game that's going on tonight. LSU versus Clemson.
Oh, it's going to be a great one. I can't wait. I've been excited for it.
Tigers versus Tigers.
Couple of great teams. They've been both of them powerhouses all season long. I know Clemson's schedule in the regular season was a little bit weaker than LSU, obviously.
I'll tell you what, Joe Burrow's really been smelling himself, and he better humble himself.
Heisman winner and future first overall pick.
Because he's got a 6'6" monster that he has to go up against. And let me tell you something. Trevor Lawrence is not something to scoff at.
No. But listen, Joe Burrow's just been unstoppable this
Season
season.
stats for Joe Burrow: 5,208 yards, 55 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions.
I mean, it's sick.
Let's go to Trevor: 3,431 yards, 36 touchdowns, 8 interceptions.
Both of these teams are deserving to be here.
Yep.
The defenses are really solid. Their quarterbacks are both great. They're both going to be NFL pros.
No doubt.
And the offensive talent, the two running backs for these teams, Travis Etienne for Clemson especially, I mean, it's going to be a great game, and it really is a toss-up. I think, obviously, LSU's favored in Vegas, but I wouldn't be surprised if Clemson wins this game, definitely.
Yeah. LSU's got, is that their tight end, Moss?
Moss for LSU?
Yeah. And then Jefferson, who is in mock draft going to the Eagles. And, I'm just going to say career stats-wise, Lawrence, this is only his second year. He's got 66 touchdowns and 12 interceptions with 6,711 yards. And then Burrow, all 4 years, he didn't start the first 2 years. He was in Ohio, right? And then
Ohio State, and then he transferred.
So he has just 73, not just, but 73 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and 8,389 yards. So Trevor will be better than Burrow when he's done with his 4 years.
Do you think this game's going to be? I mean, we saw last year with Clemson and Alabama how it just all. I don't know if you guys remember specific plays, but early on it was that pick six from Clemson. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just automatically Clemson was up like 28 points. Mm-hmm. Are you expecting maybe something like Clemson, Ohio State, where it was like 24, 23, 28? Or where are you expecting?
Close.
It's going to be an offensive juggernaut.
Do you think it's going to be like 50s? Are we talking?
Oh yeah, 40s, 50s. This is going to be a high scoring game.
Both teams.
I don't know what the over under line is, but I would definitely take the over, whatever the points is.
I think Burrow's going to have the most rushing yards on LSU for the game. I think he's going to have the most rushing yards.
I think Burrow could get a rushing touchdown tonight. I think. I feel like if I had to predict a score, I'd say it has to get up into the 40s. I'll say LSU puts up, let's say 44. I'll say Clemson puts up like 32.
LSU's got Clyde Edwards, right? Running back?
Yeah.
He's great. He's an NFL type back. Big time player.
Definitely.
All right, before we go, I just want to say anything we missed. I know we missed the Phils. We had so much to squeeze into 1 hour.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. Next week, though, we'll be back, talk a little Phillies and our offseason moves, signing Didi Gregorius, signing Zach Wheeler. We'll talk about more in depth the Eagles offseason and maybe some draft options of who we want to pick coming up.
Low lifes.
Also touch on the Sixers, another week coming up for them. And
JT Realmuto.
There you go.
Please, God.
Definitely sign JT Realmuto.
Now.
So anything we missed, we'll definitely get it to you guys next week.
All right, T.
You guys missed any of this episode, you can always go to philly-experience.simplecast.com. We are available on all major download platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and more. We back, so keep tuning in, keep listening, keep downloading. We appreciate the support. Keep spreading the word.
Oh, yeah.
Chris, you need to shave.
I do.
Let's go.
You piece of Swiss cheese.
You understand what I'm saying to you?
That is blasphemous.
It's about damn time.
But they are who we thought they were.
Boots to asses.